Hey there, Adrienne Elise here. Welcome to the Gaia Daily for June 3rd through 6th, 2022. Well, we're feeling a massive amplification of energy with Mars and Jupiter together at the beginning degrees of Aries. And today we have some forward motion energy beginning to go along with it as Mercury turns direct. Now, Mercury turning direct, it'll take a couple weeks until Mercury comes out of its retrograde shadow, which will be on the 18th, very close to the solstice. And so this next few weeks is about coming out of eclipse season, coming out of Mercury retrograde. And with Jupiter and Mars together in Aries, there's an energy of landing a whole new timeline. And perhaps as Mercury comes out of shadow, we're going to get some clarity that we have not been able to access, an energy, at least a bit, a glimpse for years. So we're getting ready to move forward. And the message, the astrological message is like, it's a new it's a new reality, and it's got to be a whole new way forward. So it's like, oh, we're finding with the moon in Leo this weekend, we're finding the confidence to begin to express ourselves out in the world again, to be able to share and access our creation energy, and finding that confidence to shine and express. So we've been uncovering for the last few years and really decades, Supernova Souls, it's been about uncovering and excavating these deeper gifts that you have. Now, the biggest, most profound talents and skills that you have that you really want to work with are often the most hidden because they're the most powerful. And so we're in this excavation process. And if it's been so hidden, then it hasn't been informing your conscious decisions. This is a powerful time around getting in alignment with what your bigger self that really knows a lot more about what's going on. To get into alignment with that, which is also the divine plan, the ascension timeline. And so with Mercury turning direct, it's in Taurus still, and that means that it's just as it's turning direct here today. And for this week, we're feeling that Mercury square Saturn in Aquarius. And this is where we're getting the message that the way forward has to be completely new and different. And the old way will only lead to dead ends. So there's a little bit of a sticky, glitchy vibe because you always get that, specifically when Mercury turns, as it's turning retrograde and as it's turning direct, is the times around those 3 days, around those times, is when you'll feel that glitchy energy. Saturn can also bring a glitchy energy. These are our time and manifested reality planets. And so when the two of them are together, it's kind of like, things don't necessarily flow in the way you would like them to, but you got to just, the message and the energy seems to be like, hold off. Like, don't push when things aren't going, and pull back. And it's like, there's an adjustment that we need to make, kind of like, so we've had a major energetic shift. But this particular time seems to be about us receiving this, like fully receiving it. And this is also the blessings of our own spiritual abundance, those deepest inner treasures. And so we're trying to learn to receive this back into our life. And Saturn is saying, well, if it's not working out, it's because you are stuck in an old paradigm. Aquarian Age is like its own planet, So very, very powerful. And it's a square of these time planets saying, yes, we've got to make a major adjustment in our relationship to time. Now, with Mercury at the end degrees of Taurus, Mercury at the same time as that square with Saturn being like, glitchy, can't go the same way as you've been. You got to kind of work around it. You got to step back. You got to explore other options, feel into it. But Mercury is also in a sweet and supportive trine with Pluto. And so Pluto at the end degrees of Capricorn, and here Mercury retrograde, but turning direct at 26 degrees. And Pluto's at 28 degrees. And Pluto has just turned retrograde, but hasn't really moved much. And so here they are, this powerful interaction. The trine energy is about anchoring in an elemental energy. And in this case, it's earth, right? And in Taurus, Mercury, the rearranging of our mind. How do we receive the abundance of who we are at the end degrees of Taurus? And then moving back into Gemini so that we can express it to the world and we can shine. So the moon moving over to Leo for the weekend is kind of amplifying the fire energy of Jupiter and Mars together in Aries. And a very powerful, beautiful energy of just like claiming and owning. And then as Mercury goes, we'll move back into Gemini in the June 13th. Then we're looking at beginning to, the clarity that's coming is around how to share these gifts with the world, to express them. You can't. Receiving our gifts, gifts that are hidden and denied and covered in shame are not well received. Yeah. So now that brings us to, because it's like, oh, creation energy, and I'm finally feeling like, oh, I can get out of this rut, you know? And then we've got that Jupiter and Mars in square. Now they're coming off. We're just feeling this for the next couple of days, Mars and Jupiter, but it's such a powerful activation. And the Aries energy. And Jupiter will continue to remain in square to Black Moon Lilith in Cancer through July, into the middle of July. So this is a whole theme and moving us into Cancer season, actually. So Black Moon Lilith is our deepest, darkest secrets hidden in our consciousness. And in Cancer, it has to do with this whole energy of the mother and receiving, and our wounds from the dark mother archetype and the wound of separation. So it's like, yeah, go ahead. And here's this creation energy. It's available. Remember, this is who you are. This is what we're doing. And then you reach out to grab that holy grail. And it's like, you know, so really powerful though, because that trine between Mercury and Pluto is very beautiful. And that's going to be through the middle of the month as well. We'll feel that. And so that is a sweet energy because, you know, when you're looking at this Cancer archetype and our relationship to the mother, our relationship to nurturing, our relationship to receiving, and what deep, dark, hidden energies in our subconscious are keeping us. Well, and then this end degrees of Taurus energy keeping us from our own treasures and our own ability to shine into the world. And so that the other side, you know, the opposite sign of Cancer is Capricorn. And so often these are denoted with like Cancer's mother energy. Capricorn can be father energy, laws and rules, but also hard work, getting, you know, paying off, and great managerial skills and all that. So, but we have to look at this because, you know, we've talked about the deep and profound needs of the human child and what is required in their care. And then the energy of Capricorn has an energy of the structure and the father, and it's like authority, you know, represents authority. So it's kind of when this polarity, this axis of Cancer Capricorn is about the energies of mother and father, whether we deserve, whether we're good enough, and the power and control energies that can come from the vulnerability of the human condition. We're kind of bred to be in slaves, you know, so, but Mercury turning direct, trining Pluto for 2 whole weeks is like, emancipate yourself, you know, and Gemini has a huge mastermind energy of like getting yourself out of the trap of duality thinking. So this is a huge opportunity for us right now. But we're coming face to face where it's like, oh, here's all this possibility. And finally, I'm seeing it and it's real. And oh my gosh. But then it's like, can you receive it? Is there still hidden places, just like that hidden treasures, the hidden places where you refused to receive love? That's not possible for you to be loved and cared for in this realm because it's been a rough go, right? And we're sensitive souls. We took it personally. But of course the light was going to be attacked. And don't you think we should just pick up ourselves up by our bootstraps and get on with the fire, get on with the activation, get on with the enjoyment and the pleasure that comes from fully living an ecstatic experience what source and creation intended for us. So so it's just like such an amazing set of astrology. And the other thing that's going on is that the sun is with Pallas Athene, asteroid goddess Pallas Athene in Gemini. And so this mastermind energy of getting ourselves out of like being able to negotiate and use our intuition to avoid conflict and violence is energy of Pallas Athene. And it's the divine feminine and masculine, right? So intellectual and intuitive thinking in a perfect mix that brings blind justice and peace and harmony. You know, this is the way true spiritual cultures have always done it. And this was something that had to be hidden, you know, but the mother and the father archetype perfectly balanced in every area of life, you know, so that the community and the energy of place always feels like home. And we can access this memory of living in these types of spiritual communities that had to go dark, had to go hidden, had to disperse in the Piscean age, and kind of feel into what that felt like. And maybe you've had a glimpse of this at some point, you know, when you encounter that rare and beautiful, but more and more common it's coming, but this perfect, beautiful, energetic balance of people working together, whatever, you know, masculine or feminine body, but in this balance of the masculine and feminine in perfect balance, and just like creating a portal into the garden. And when you experience a glimpse of that, it's just so beautiful. And it just, you know, being around true soulmate relationships that are in balance and mutually receptive and respectful of each other in the masculine and feminine, it feels like home, you know? Feels like you can relax. And that's so these archetypes are really important. And Pallas is talking about this. It's really interesting because Gemini has that mastermind ability to kind of overcome duality thinking, and Pallas Athene is saying, yes, let's come back together in this intuitive and intellectual thinking strategy, you know, taking back our power through strategy and intuition and intellect and communication, negotiation. We can do this, you know? So the sun is who we think we are. And in Gemini, it's about expression and leadership. And with Pallas Athene, it's about just leadership. And so as we come into our voice and start expressing and shining our light and sharing with the world, we're living in balance, the masculine and feminine. We're living in justice. We're bringing that wherever we go. And it's like a very powerful energy of a reset back to when you were able to live more fully in your ideals. Part of the pain and grief and maybe the dark hidden stuff of separation with Black Moon, Lilith, and Cancer square Jupiter and Mars has to do with where we maybe feel shameful about where we've gotten so far off of our path, where we've had to compromise our ideals. And this is just part of what happens when you incarnate into 3D Earth human experience. It's you have to go against your true nature as an advanced soul. And then as sensitive advanced souls, of course, we beat ourselves up for that. So part of the shame is forgiving ourselves for how far we got separated. It's like if you're going to keep beating yourself up over it, you're never going to come back into that divine union and that peace and that home. This is how we bring home here. We went thinking we need to go home. And I guess we're bringing our home here, whatever that means. So powerful explosion of fire energy with the full moon in Sagittarius that is going to be happening at 23 degrees and on the 14th. So right around the middle of the month is very powerful because Mercury's making its way back to Gemini out of retrograde shadow. We've got that full moon in Sag, super dynamic. And so the sun and the moon for the Sagittarius full moon will be in square to Neptune, so a mutable T-square. And so it's interesting how we're like, okay, Mercury's going direct, great, we can access this energy, and then Saturn's turning retrograde a few days later, right? So there's always this kind of, okay, wait, we can move forward in this way we have to reevaluate. We have to reevaluate our role. Like we were saying, you can't just do it the old way. It's a new you, a new reality. And if you're feeling like fear of the unknown and uncomfortable with not knowing what's coming, you're doing it right. We're being asked to be in that place of co-creation, to ask for the best and most beautiful unfolding in the moment, whatever that means. And that we're going to listen, we're going to pay attention, and we're going to walk in the garden with Mother Goddess. So in order to move forward, we've got to do it in a new way. And the new way requires this healing of this wound of separation. And so this T-square, mutable T-square for the full moon is kind of like, we're going somewhere. We're seeing clarity. We're seeing the path. And then it's like a little bloom of how we felt for the last 2 years with the nodes of the moon in mutable signs of like, oh, wait a minute. I don't know anything. I can't do anything. I can't move anywhere because nothing feels right. Anything I try is just getting me off balance. And so it's really interesting. But mutable signs are adjusting. So it actually totally fits. It kind of confirms that we have had a new timeline land if we want to grab it and know that we deserve it and be in that place of the garden and the divine union. Where peace and justice reign. So we're stepping up and finding the confidence to own this timeline and to vibrate there. The full moon in Sag makes this next full moon about an activation of our spiritual quest, getting back. So it's like, okay, I'm seeing direction. I'm feeling into it. It's a new me. It's a new energy. But then it's like coming back into alignment with your original quest of what in the heck you're doing here in this evolution. So huge activation of the spiritual warrior. And if there's any supernova souls who have planets and elements at the first 10 degrees of fire signs, it's like major activation for you right now. And with a square to Neptune, it's like, yeah, but what is your spiritual purpose? Yeah, but what is your service? What is the point? What are you even doing? What are we doing? And the pull into the old way of codependently healing and trying to save the world and all that stuff, and just kind of like, but it's ultimately about, okay, we're getting this new timeline. Now we have to get it into alignment with the highest ideal and the highest possibilities, And so we're earning and deserving our quest back, as well as our life force and our permission to express. So really sweet energy, really with the moon in Leo this weekend, because it's this kind of feeling of confidence and knowing that a time of self-expression is coming, and we're preparing, we're grabbing hold of the creation energy, we're getting back into our projects or the new projects that we've always wanted to do. It's like, oh, okay, I can feel this coming, and now I'm just going to get to work. Very, very beautiful. And then of course, everything, making sure that this comes in alignment with the highest good. And that also requires healing that deep and profound wound of separation and coming back into a direct connection with Mother Goddess, walking in our lives, walking in rhythm with Gaia, which very much fits this way of co-creation, new way of creating and moving in the world. So yes, it's the energy's coming back. Yes, there's a new direction, a new timeline, but whoa, we have some massive adjusting to do. And it's almost like that Fool, I'm feeling this Fool card energy of, you know, being willing to make that leap into the unknown and lightening your load and trusting your animal guide. And so, but there's kind of this place, maybe the Sagittarius full moon is like, ooh, we made it somewhere, but now we have to reevaluate where we are from this mountaintop and navigate through the unknown and the dark, just, you know, because it's just so new and different. So it's just, so just be patient with yourself, because we're having cellular adjustment, our physical body. Mars rules our physical body, and Jupiter and Mars, it's like expression of stuff inside that hasn't been expressed. So suppressed, that's going to be emotions. It's going to be physical expression in our body, cleansing and healing. And so a great time to claim back our life force in that way. And that's also a very important part of going back to the garden and living and breathing from that place, claiming that vitality and that health and the vibrancy. So the other thing that's happening at the middle of the month with the Sagittarius full moon, the moon and the sun in square to Neptune, the sun in Pallas Athene will still be closed. So Pallas Athene will be dictating this mutable T-square. So it's like coming back into our spiritual quest, and it has to be in alignment with the highest spiritual pursuits and claiming the highest optimal timeline and possibilities. And it requires justice. So the sun in Pallas will also be in trine to Saturn, very sweet air trine. And so that's kind of just saying this new world requires justice, you know, a new identity of who we see ourselves. This is our world. We're not going to go along with your program anymore. We're going to do it right. We want to take care of it right. We can't continue to live in this fractured, shameful, disconnected state. We can't. So very, very powerful. And the full moon in Sag will then be in a sextile relationship with Saturn. So and Mercury square Saturn for this first week of June. So a lot of energy of like adjusting to this new timeline and new reality and new role, and be patient with yourself and know that a lot of stuff's coming up around that shame and that disconnection and just healing these deep wounds so that we can be whole and complete and be that representative of this garden and shine our light and truth, share it with the world again, right? It's like completion of the Piscean Age. The Piscean Age was about a silencing of true spirituality, of the feminine, of keeping us in programmed trauma, spiritual, religious trauma. And now it's time to be free and come back into expression of our true spiritual wealth and the world we know is possible, that we're here to co-create and that we see in that highest divine timeline. So beginning to share our vision with the world. That's the next chapter, right? So get your ducks in a row. It's coming to a time. You're a reluctant leader. You're playing a very important role. So get over yourself and start working on your projects, because you got to be ready. It's a time of preparation. So I don't know, that message just kind of popped through. So the other thing that's going on at the time of this full moon in the middle of June, this big bloom of karmic movement, fire, activation, energy, and Venus is coming up to the North Node. So Venus is at home in Taurus. Venus loves to be at home in Taurus. It's like comfortable, that feeling of like having what she needs and feeling loved and cared for. And learning to receive. And this Venus is coming up to the North Node, and that will be right around the time of this Sagittarius full moon. And so, so our fire activation and our new timeline activation and our spiritual quest landing back home has everything to do with the direction and role of the feminine in our individual life, as well as the collective. Because the North Node is, how are we going to get to where we're going? And Venus says, this is how you learn to receive again, because all those beautiful blessings and all this great opportunity, all this fiery creation energy, no good if we don't feel worthy and can't receive it. So that whole codependent, low self-worth of the feminine is just completely out the window, in a whole revolution, because Uranus is there too. So Venus will come up with Uranus and then the North Node. And okay, so it's like the 11th and 12th that Venus comes up to Uranus. So it's like an activation of the higher power and the secret mysteries, spiritual mysteries of the feminine. And then North Node, bam, run with it, right? It's like, it's kind of like, well, we're uncovering, we're excavating. And then it's kind of like, whoa, oh, we found it. We found the treasures. We found the book. We found the manual. It's triggering this massive past life memory and beautiful activation of the divine galactic feminine and higher technology that is based in the feminine that's been suppressed. And it's kind of like this North Node, Uranus North Node, Venus thing is a massive activation, saying everything that's going on with Saturn, that we've got a new world, new way, new timeline, whole new way of, we got to figure that out. And this is a very important part of that answer, which is the activated divine feminine. So we don't even know. We don't even really have a picture of that. But Pallas Athene is inviting us into a very powerful aspect of the ability to use our intuition and intellect together for strategy and peacekeeping and fairness and blind justice. So everyone gets equal treatment under the sun. And so powerful messages about the new world and the new way. So pay attention, be open to it. It's very different than what you would expect. Powerful energy of this fire activation, but then rearranging our life according to the new energy before we can really move. So very interesting time. And when Mercury moves back into Gemini, that'll be quite a marker on the 13th. And then that full moon in Sag, the 14th, and a huge bloom of all that astrology through the middle of June. So we'll see what it looks like on the other side. Thanks so much for being here. And thank you, Supernova Souls. You're so amazing for all you've gone through. And I'm so honored to be with you here. And I can't wait to see what's around the corner for us as we make these big leaps into our new reality, creating and co-creating the garden together again. So thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you soon on the next update. Until then, I'm Adrienne Elise. Namaste.